finish, a similar ending to the race, and now for the entire marathon 42.2
ይህ ኢትዮጵያዊያን አትሌቶች እጅግ ተቃርኖ በነበረበት የአየር ንብረት በብርድ በጭጋግና በዝናብ ታጅቦ በተደረገው የኦታዋ ማራቶን አስደናቂ ድል ያስመዘገቡበት የ2026 ውድድር ነው። በካናዳ መዲና ኢትዮጵያውያኑ አስገራሚ ውድድርን አስመልክተውናል። ጠንካራ ፉክክር፣ አልሸነፍ ባይነት ትግል እስከ መጨረሻው ድረስ የዘለቀ ጽናት ተመልክተናል። ደግሞ የመጀመሪያ የማራቶን ውድድሯን ያደረገችው አበባ አረጋዊ አስገራሚ የሚባል ታሪክን ሰርታ ማጠናቀቅ ችላለች። እስከ መጨረሻው ድረስ የታየው ታላቅ ፉክክር ውድድሩ በ52ኛው መድረክ አስደናቂ የሆነ ትዕይንትን እንዲያስመለክት ምክንያት ሆኖታል። የተወደዳችሁ ተከታታዮች ይህ የ2026 ታማራኮምስ ኦታዋ ማራቶን ነው። እስከ መጨረሻው ድረስ በመከታተል እንድትዝናኑበት ጋበዝናችሁ።
መረጃው ለበርካታ ሰዎች እንዲዳረስ አግዙን። ሰብስክራይብ ያላደረጋችሁ ሰብስክራይብ በማድረግ ቤተሰብ እንድትሆኑ በአክብሮት እንጠይቃችኋለን። በቀጥታ ወደ ጉዳዩ።
የካናዳ መዲና ኦታዋ በየዓመቱ የምታስተናግደው ታዋቂው ታማራኮምስ ኦታዋ ዓለም አቀፍ ማራቶን ግንቦት 24 2026 በብርድ በጭጋግና በካስማ ዝናብ ታጅቦ 52ኛውን መድረክ በደመቀ ሁኔታ አጠናቋል። ከ40 ሺህ በላይ ሰዎች በተሳተፉበት በዚህ ታላቅ የሩጫ በዓል ላይ የአየር ንብረቱ አስቸጋሪ ቀዝቃዛ 10 ዲግሪ ሴልሺየስ በታች ቢሆንም ከቀናት በፊት ኦታዋ ገብተው የነበሩት የኢትዮጵያ ምርጥ የረጅም ርቀት ሯጮችና አበባ አረጋዊ በሁለቱም ጾታዎች እስከ መጨረሻው ሰከንድ ብርቱ ፉክክር በማድረግ የውድድሩ ዋነኛ የትኩረት ማዕከል መሆን ችለዋል። በተለይ በትራክ ላይ በ1500 ሜትር የዓለም ሻምፒዮንና የኦሎምፒክ ሜዳሊያ ባለቤት የነበረችው አበባ አረጋዊ ለመጀመሪያ ጊዜ በማራቶን ጎዳና ላይ ብቅ ብላ ያስመዘገበችው ውጤት በወንዶቹ ምድብ እስከ መጨረሻው ሜትር ድረስ የተደረገው የትከሻ ለትከሻ ትንቅንቅ የዘንድሮውን የኦታዋ ማራቶን ልዩ ታሪክ አላብሶታል። የኢትዮጵያ የልዑክ ቡድን ውድድሩ ከመካሄዱ ከ3 ቀናት በፊት ነበረ የካናዳ መዲና ኦታዋ የገባው። አትሌቶቹ ረጅም ሰዓት የወሰደ የአየር በረራ ካደረጉ በኋላ በነጋታው አርብ ማለዳ የመጀመሪያ ቀለል ያለ ማሟሟቂያና የሜዳ ላይ ልምምድን አድርገዋል። በወቅቱ የቡድኑ ስብስብ ጥራትና ዝግጅት ከፍተኛ ግምት ተሰጥቶት የነበረ ሲሆን የኦታዋ ማራቶን አዘጋጆችም የውድድሩ ክብረ ወሰን በወንዶች 2:06:04 እና በሴቶች 2:22:17 እንዲሰበር እቅድ ይዘዋል። ይሁን እንጂ የአየር ሁኔታው ዝናባማና ነፋሻማ መሆኑ እየታወቀ በመምጣቱ አዘጋጆቹ ትኩረታቸው ወደ ታክቲክ ፉክክር እንዲቀየር ሆነ። በወንዶች ሹራ ቂጣታ፣ አጸዱ ጸጋዬ፣ አምባይ ጎይተም፣ ሃይማኖት ማተቤ፣ ጊዜያለው አያና፣ ገብረጻድቅ አብረሃ፣ አፈወርቅ መስፍንና ሙሉጌታ ደባሱ ተሰለፉ። በሴቶቹ ምድብ መሰረት በለጠ፣ መሰረት ገብሬ፣ መስከረም አሰፋ፣ እልፍነሽ ደምሴ፣ ቅድሳን አለማ፣ አና ዲባባ፣ ታደለሽ በቀለ፣ ብርቄ ደበሌ፣ ረድኤት ዳንኤል፣ ኩፍቱ ጣሂርና አበባ አረጋዊ ሯጮቹ ነበሩ። በሴቶች ምድብ የተመዘገበው ታሪክ እጅግ አስገራሚና ያልተጠበቁ ሁነቶች የተስተናገዱበት ነበረ። አበባ አረጋዊ ቀደም ሲል በለንደን 2012 ኦሎምፒክ በ1500 ሜትር የብር ሜዳሊያ ያስመዘገበች እንዲሁም በ2013 በሞስኮ ዓለም ሻምፒዮና የወርቅ ሜዳሊያ ያጠለቀች የትራክ ንግስት ነበረች። ነገር ግን በኦታዋ ማራቶን 2026 ላይ ስትሰለፍ ይህ ውድድር በታሪኳ የመጀመሪያ የማራቶን የ42.2 ኪሎ ሜትር ትንቅንቅ ነበረ። የሴቶቹ መሪ ቡድን ውድድሩን የጀመሩት በጣም በተረጋጋና ጥንቃቄ በተሞላበት ፍጥነት ነበረ። ግማሽ ማራቶኑ ላይ አበባ አረጋዊን ጨምሮ 4 አትሌቶች ያሉበት መሪ ስብስብ 1 ሰዓት ከ10 ገደማ መግባት ችለዋል። ይሁን እንጂ ውድድሩ 30 ኪሎ ሜትር ላይ ሲደርስ መሪው ስብስብ ተበታተነ። በዚህ ወቅት የኢትዮጵያዋ ወጣት አትሌት ኩፍቱ ጣሂር የራሷን የወንድ ፍጥነት አጋዥ በመከተል ፍጥነቷን በመጨመር ከትውልደ ኢትዮጵያዊቷ አበባ አረጋዊ በመራቅ ብቸኛ መሪ መሆን ቻለች። አበባ አረጋዊ በወቅቱ ድካም እንደተሰማትና ከመሪዎቹ መለየቷን ስትገልጽ ጥሩ ስሜት አልነበረኝም፣ ነገር ግን እነሱን ለመከተል በከፍተኛ ሁኔታ ጥሪ ያለው ስትል ትገልጻለች። በ35 ኪሎ ሜትር አካባቢ ኩፍቱ ጣሂር ውድድሩን በአንደኛነት የምታጠናቅቅ ትመስል ይመስል ነበረ። አበባ አረጋዊ ደግሞ ሁለተኛነቷን ለማስጠበቅ የምትሮጥ ይመስላል። ነገር ግን ማራቶኑ 38 ኪሎ ሜትር ላይ ሲደርስ ተአምር ተከሰተ። መሪዋ ኩፍቱ ታሂር በከፍተኛ ሁኔታ ፍጥነቷ መቀነስ ጀመረ። በትራክ ውድድር የመጨረሻ ዙር ፍጥነት ኪክ የምታደርገው አበባ አረጋዊ ጥርሷን ነክሳ አስደናቂ አቋም ማሳየት ቻለች። እናም እስከ ውድድሩ መጨረሻ ድረስ እነዚህ አትሌቶች አስገራሚ ፉክክር አሳዩን። አበባ አረጋዊ ውድድሩን ለመጨረስ የፈጀባት ጊዜ 2:23:12 ነበረ። ይህ ውጤት ለመጀመሪያ ጊዜ ማራቶን ለሚሮጥ አትሌት እጅግ አስደናቂ የሚባል ሲሆን በተለይም በዚያ ቀዝቃዛና ዝናባማ የአየር ሁኔታ ውስጥ መመዝገቡ ጥራቱን ከፍ ያደርገዋል። በተጨማሪም ይህ ጊዜ አዲስ የስዊድን ሀገራዊ የማራቶን ክብረ ወሰን ተብሎም ተመዝግቧል። እቺ አትሌት ዜግነቷን ቀይራ ለስዊድን መሮጥ ከጀመረች በኋላ ትልልቅ ስኬቶችን አስመዝግባለች። ይህ ሰዓቷም የስዊድን ብሔራዊ ክብረ ወሰን ሆኖላታል። በወንዶቹ ምድብ የተደረገው ፉክክር እጅግ ስልታዊ የኢትዮጵያውያን አትሌቶች በቡድን የነበራቸው ጥምረት የታየበት ነበረ። ውድድሩ እንደተጀመረ 3 የፍጥነት አጋዦች ወይንም ፔስ ሜከሮች እና 8 ዋና ዋና ተወዳዳሪዎች ያሉበት ስብስብ እስከ ግማሽ ማራቶን ድረስ በአንድነት ተጉዟል። በግማሽ ማራቶኑ 21 ኪሎ ሜትር ላይ መሪዎቹ የገቡበት ሰዓት 1:04:24 ነበረ። በዚህ የመሪ ስብስብ ውስጥ የኬንያው የፍጥነት አጋዥ ፒተር እንጄሩ ይገኝ ነበረ። ሌሎቹ ግን ኢትዮጵያውያን በሚገርም ብቃትና ኃይል ይሮጡ እንደነበር ተመልክተናል። 35ኛው ኪሎ ሜትር በኋላ የፍጥነት አጋዡ ፔስ ሜከሩ ፒተር እንጄሩ ስራውን አጠናቆ ወጣ። ከዚያ በኋላ ሁሉም ኃላፊነት ወደ አትሌቶቹ እጅ ወደቀ። እስከ መጨረሻው 200 ሜትር ድረስ ጊዜያለው አያና እንዲሁ ደግሞ ኬንያዊው ኤልቪስ ቼቦይ አንገት ለአንገት ተናንቀው እስከ መጨረሻው ድረስ ታግለው ገብተዋል። የኢትዮጵያው አትሌት ጊዜያለው አያና በጣም የሚገርም ሰዓትን አስመዝግቧል። 2:09:26 በመግባት በጥሩ ሁኔታ ማጠናቀቅ ችሏል። የ2026 ኦታዋ ማራቶን ቀዝቃዛና ነፋሻማ በነበረ አየር ኢትዮጵያውያኑ በዚህ ሳይበገሩ ብርቱ ፉክክር አድርገው ጥሩ ውጤት አስመዝግበዋል። ይህ ውድድር የኢትዮጵያውያን ኃያልነት የተመዘገበበት ብቻ ሳይሆን አስገራሚ ክስተቶችም የታዩበት ነበረ። የከተማዋ ከንቲባ ማርክ ስቱክሊፍ በከተማዋ ያሉ አእላፍ ወጣቶች ከቤት አልባነት ለመታደግ ኢንዲንግ ዩዝ ሆምለስነስ ኢን ኦታዋ ባይ 2030 ፈንድ ለተሰኘው የገቢ ማሰባሰቢያ ይፋዊ ያልሆነ የግል ማራቶንን ሮጠዋል። ሰውየው ሩጫቸውን የጀመሩት በሌሊት 10 ሰዓት በጨለማ ነበረ። ይህም ቤት አልባ ወጣቶች ማህበራዊ አገልግሎቶችን ለማግኘት የሚያደርጉትን አስቸጋሪ የጨለማ ጉዞ ለመወከል ታስቦ የተደረገ ምሳሌያዊ ክስተት ነበረ። በማጠናቀቂያው መስመር ላይ ከንቲባው 117,190 የካናዳ ዶላር ማሰባሰባቸውን የሚያሳይ ትልቅ ቼክ ለኦታዋ ማህበረሰብ ፋውንዴሽን አስረክበዋል። የ100 ዓመቱ አዛውንት ደግሞ ሌላ ታሪክ አስመልክተውናል። በቅዳሜው የ5 ኪሎ ሜትር ውድድር ላይ ሮይ አለን የተባሉ የ100 ዓመት አዛውንት ውድድሩን በስኬት በማጠናቀቅ አዲስ የካናዳና የዓለም ታሪካዊ ክብረ ወሰን መስበርን ችለዋል። ደግሞ 1907 የቦስተን ማራቶን አሸናፊ የነበረው ታዋቂው የኦንጋዳ ተወላጅ አትሌት ቶም ሎንግቦት ዝርያ ሐረግ ያያዘው የ24 ዓመቱ ወጣት ክርስቲያን ጃሚሰን የአያቱን 2:24:24 ታሪካዊ ሰዓት በካናዳ አፈር ላይ ለመስበር አቅዶ ሮጧል። ውድድሩን 2:31:23 በመግባት ማጠናቀቅ ችሏል። የዘሩን ሐረግም ድል በካናዳ መድገም ችሏል። በአጠቃላይ የ2026 የኦታዋ ማራቶን የኢትዮጵያውያን አትሌቶች ያሳዩት ተከታታይ የጽናት ሩጫ ፍጹም ስነ ስርዓትና የታክቲክ ብልጫ የታየበት ነበረ። ይህንን ውድድር እስከ መጨረሻው ድረስ በማየት እንድትዝናኑበት ጋበዝናችሁ። ሰላም።
የዩቲዩብ ተከታታዮች ሰብስክራይብ በማድረግ ቤተሰብ መሆን እንዳትዘነጉ። ላይክ እና ሼር በማድረግ ለሌሎች እንዲዳረስም አድርጉ።
You don't get the gold medal the day of. And in fact, with the Ottawa Marathon, because Albert tested positive afterwards and before New York City, only his New York City result got disqualified. His Ottawa result still stands. And, if you think about it, Albert career, he wins Ottawa, great time. I very doubt that all of a sudden he's decided to dope after that. Where the smoke there's fire. He was probably cheating in Ottawa, but as it stands, he's still the winner from last year.
This was the quote from Rory Linkletter. Quote, "If you did it once, how are we to believe it didn't happen before?"
Of course, yeah. And I would completely agree with Rory there. He got robbed, you know. It's no, I mean, I see cheating as no different than had our career cut the course short, right? Like he didn't play by the same rules as the rest of the competitors. I'm glad he got caught, but I wish he had been caught before Ottawa. And yeah, if anything positive to come out of it, maybe that's just given Rory a little bit more fire. I know when I've been beaten by drug cheats, it has given me more fire to beat them, you know, or you know, revenge is sort of like, you know, a race that should have been his. So if anything, hopefully Rory's just more fired up and has a little bit more fuel for today.
I know that the Run Ottawa directors definitely had pressure to address the situation and did immediately after, and did the testing protocols as per usual, pre and post race for athletes. And this year that has been a dominant theme for our elite athletes as an elite label race too. In the event of attracting some of the best athletes in the world, the doping monitoring is definitely something that the organizers are keeping a pulse on and making sure athletes are well aware that as soon as that finish line is done, that doping control is going to be available.
And there's two pieces to this, because every medalist will be drug tested after this race. There's also random athletes who will be drug tested after this. In career situation, yes, he passed the testing here, but it was out of competition testing that actually nabbed him. So it's not just what you do the day of competition, the week of competition. You may get a knock on the door, and for all of these athletes, they, you know, especially the Canadian athletes, and it's different country to country, your whereabouts are vital, that you need. The walk she had in Flagstaff, she did some double thresholds for the first time in her career, 2 training sessions per day, and she said that was not just new for me, she said, I loved it, I want to do more of that, and she said working on tired legs just adds such a different dimension to your training coming into your marathon prep.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the marathon is. It's still running fast when you're tired. And, you know, of course, you're not going to just run a hard 42K in training all the time, but you do want to simulate it to a certain extent. And, you know, whether that's doing, you know, like a 35K run every so often or doing double thresholds, there's a lot of ways you can try to accomplish that. But, you know, getting to a state where you're quite tired and you're pushing yourself, that's what's going to make you a good marathoner. And then, of course, recovery, right? So you can't overdo it in training because you want to repeat it again, you know, a few days later. So it's always a fine balance, but it looks like Alyssa's it seems to have found that. So we'll see how that works out for her today in the second half of this marathon.
She's a runner who likes negative splits, said she's coming into this thing, the first half will be a little more conservative. The second half of this race, Legault said, I'm going to go for it, and we're seeing that. She's trying to catch up with Wodak, not far behind. Meanwhile, Jade Berube, who you mentioned, the 28-year-old from La Chute, Quebec, first career marathon, and she said running a marathon has always been a target for me. She ran the Houston half last year, the Valencia half. Only in the last 18 months has Berube gotten into road races.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see someone do their debut because we've had some really talented half marathoners, 10K runners not take to the marathon, and some have surprisingly taken really well. So we'll see how the second half of this race goes for Jade, but so far so good for her in her first one out. Another interesting thing is that Alyssa Legault has already run 1:11:25 this year, so she's better. She used to have the Quebec marathon, half marathon record, and then Anne-Marie Comeau beat it, and then Alyssa Legault beat it again this year. So she ran a 1:11:25 just back in March before she went to Flagstaff. So we know she's in really good shape and ready to compete today.
That was a PB for her, that 1:11:25 in March. That was in New York State. Ottawa means a lot to Alyssa Legault. She qualified for the Worlds back in 2022. right here. And I asked her, last December, Valencia running 2:29:05 in the marathon, what did that do for you? And Lego, Jenna said, it made me realize I can trust my body. And that's so important for an elite athlete.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm just looking at her splits here at the half marathon. It hasn't updated online yet, but she's not far behind Wodak, who is a seasoned vet, someone she can lean on and follow her strategy and pace throughout. So, trusting yourself and sticking to your guns throughout this whole thing, like Reed said when we chatted, feels like an hour ago, but about the mental aspect of this sport. It's the physicality of it is one thing. We have the science and the shoes and the nutrition data, but the mental toughness, I'm sure Reed can echo this with his athletes, it feels almost like 90% of the effort. So knowing yourself, knowing your ticking points and what makes you snap and what makes you go, and the confidence it takes, that matters as much as you being well-fueled and being well-recovered and well-rested. The way the brain works in these events is an absolute beast, and we've heard of people in those vision tunnels, or the paranoia, we like to call it, before these events. So for an elite-level athlete, it's even heightened. Everything is much more difficult. The stakes are higher. There's Olympic contention, there's sponsorships, there's prize money. So for her to feel confident and focused is an absolute pleasure to hear, and I'm glad that she feels that way.
So I don't know what the cool kids say anymore, and I certainly don't know runner's lingo. Paranoia.
Paranoia.
Translate for us.
Paranoia would be sort of the jitters, the nerves, everything hurts. All of a sudden, your hamstring has a tweak, your tongue.
In the debut slot, but at 36 years old, running her very first marathon, like we talked about 14 years ago, she was the Olympic silver medalist, and 13 years ago, the world champion at 1,500 meters versus Kuftu, who is a 31-year-old Ethiopian veteran marathoner.
It was interesting coming into this on the men's side. When Rory Linkletter told us, often people are timid in cold conditions, when it's yucky outside, maybe some runners just wait. He thought that may open a door for a win. It's been anything but. It's been a pack that has remained consistent throughout. They have been going for it from the jump today.
Absolutely, yeah. Very different experience than last year. And last year also at this time, it was blazing sun.
It was.
It was very warm. I think later on in the afternoon, the heat was recorded in the low 30s with the humidex. So these conditions are extremely unfamiliar for Ottawa race weekend, which has been historically very, very warm after blisteringly cold winters. So, Rory's Canadian, so he understands that our weather is unpredictable, and a May race could mean snow, or it could mean an inferno of heat. So I'm sure he's prepared for both of them, but it does change maybe the outcome and expectations and what he's coming into based on previous experience from last year. So a little bit more movement here happening with the pro men, a little bit more separation. It looks like the pack is also trying to find their avenues where they can take off and make moves as well.
What does Rory want to do here, Reed?
Well, that's the same thing he's been doing for the last hour and 45 minutes, is just try to conserve as much energy as possible.
Right.
And now that pace, that pace was still in there. He's hanging tough, which is good to see, but I assume he will drop off fairly soon. But if you're tucked in behind people, you're not breaking the wind, and Rory is only concerned about the win here, right? It's not going to be a PB for him. It's not going to be as fast as times he ran last year.
And that doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't. Like I said before, he would rather win this in a slow time than finish third in a fast time. This is all about racing. So it's really just about gauging what the other runners are doing. He's probably looking at these runners and looking at their body language and is this guy struggling? Sometimes people look really smooth and they actually are hurting. Sometimes Yuki Kawauchi, who won Boston back in 2018, is a runner that doesn't look like it looks like he's suffering from the gun, and he hangs tough. So sometimes you can't always tell, but that's what he's looking for, those signals, and probably looking for a good time to make his move. And he's got to think, does he think he can beat these guys in a 100-meter race, or does he think these guys have the speed and he's going to have to push that pace from 2K out, 3K out? Maybe that's it. He's just determining what the best way for him to hit that race. And you see, they just grabbed bottles there. Sometimes you can't actually get a lot of that fuel to work for you in the later stages of the race, but
የዩቲዩብ ተከታታዮች ሰብስክራይብ በማድረግ ቤተሰብ መሆን እንዳትዘነጉ። ላይክ እና ሼር በማድረግ ለሌሎች እንዲዳረስም አድርጉ።
But it's a close call. It's anybody's race at this point.
It is pan flat along the canal all the way to the finish. Rory Linkletter is where he wants to be. He said, my ideal scenario is to be with the lead pack going on to the Rideau Canal. He's had brief glimpses of the lead, but this is how competitive it has been for the last 2 hours plus.
I don't know the last time we've seen a pack of 5
This late.
Yeah,
past the 40K mark. It rarely happens in any sort of big marathon. So this is really exciting. And honestly, like Kip Kimboy is leading, but it's anybody's race right now. They're all within less than a second of each other. Kip Kimboy has done most of the leading, I think, in the last K or 2. But Abreha and Ayana look like very good. And Debasu and Linkletter seem to be just like kind of hanging on the last K or so.
Nothing like Canadian athletics in 2025 giving us all a little bit of a heart race. So, I mean, this is a great entertainment for our city. I mean, I hope that we can see Rory find a little extra gear here in the end, use the crowds to his advantage.
Okay, Aregawi has made up a lot of distance here.
That looks like a 20 meter rather.
20 meter.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see that little bit of distance between the pacers, not helping out Kuftu quite as much anymore. So
5
this is a
kilometers
turnaround
to go on the women's side.
Less than 2 for the men's coming up to that final K. They're going to see those barricades coming up. And it'll be interesting to see this final push, this final surge.
We got Chaboy.
Elvis Chaboy of Kenya, Gizealew Ayana of Ethiopia.
Elvis Chaboy. I should recognize him. He has run Toronto a couple times and making a move with Ayana, a big lead. And on the women's side, it looks like is that Aregawi?
She's on passing her.
Wow.
So just a few moments ago, it was Aregawi who was sick. Abeba Aregawi literally was throwing up on the course, was far behind, and now has passed Tahir Kuftu. 14 years ago, an Olympic silver medalist in the 1500 on the track. And now, at the age of 35, is in the driver's seat. The question is, can Aregawi finish? Has represented Ethiopia internationally, then went on to represent Sweden.
It's interesting, the pacer's still hanging on here right at the end. I'm assuming he'll drop pretty soon. And the lead men just coming in here at the end. This is the final push, passing the Pretoria Bridge here. This is those last 800 meters or less.
Will it be Ayana? Will it be Chaboy?
And Linkletter right there in third, right behind. This is another men's potentially photo finish.
A look from Chaboy over his left shoulder. He sees right there with him is the Ethiopian, Chaboy from Kenya.
Is used to racing in Canada. His PB is actually from the Toronto Waterfront Marathon back in 2023, and
ran 2:09:20 that year.
Yeah, and in the fall of last year, he was still 2:09:31 at a race in France. So even though he didn't set his PB last fall, he was only 10 seconds off of it. So he doesn't have the fast PB that a lot of these other guys do, but he wins races in the 2:09 range. So this is kind of like his specialty right here.
What a finish this is shaping up to be at the 2026 Tamarack Homes Ottawa International Marathon. Neck and neck. Chaboy versus Ayana. Yesterday in the 10K, it was a near photo finish, a similar ending to the race, and now for the entire marathon, 42.2 kilometers, comes down to this.
The organizers are down there making sure that if they need to capture any photo finish, that they're able to. But we do see Chaboy pulling ahead here. May not need it.
Couple of strides advantage for Chaboy, the 30-year-old.
Well, the advantage that Ayana and Rory have over Chaboy, they're 206 guys. The disadvantage is that they ran that this year. So Chaboy would be theoretically a lot fresher not having run a high-quality marathon in the past couple months as these other two guys have. So
here we go, that final gated finish. We have the finish line coming up right ahead. The athletes can see it, crossing that pedestrian arch followed by the finish line. The crowds are into it. The half marathon also officially underway as well.
Canada has been friendly to Elvis Chaboy. Previously the winner in Toronto, and in one of the most competitive races in the history of the Ottawa International Marathon. In 2026, it will be the Kenyan who will prevail. Elvis Chaboy, the wave, the win in 2026 in Ottawa.
የዩቲዩብ ተከታታዮች ሰብስክራይብ በማድረግ ቤተሰብ መሆን እንዳትዘነጉ። ላይክ እና ሼር በማድረግ ለሌሎች እንዲዳረስም አድርጉ።
Finish third and be the top Canadian. He was right there with the pack for the duration. In the last kilometer and a half, the gap finish. Linkletter crosses at 2:09.42. So the top Canadian male and the overall bronze medalist. Solid run for Rory.
He gave himself a clap there in the end, so that is greatly reassuring to see that he knows he pushed hard in this race.
And that's really a big ask to run 206 low in Boston in April and come back again in May. So, you know, it's very impressive for him to do that and to do it so successfully. So, I'm sure, like we said, he's his worst critic. He wanted to win this race, but he really should be happy with that performance.
Absolutely.
Rory, I can see his coach there, John Green. There at the finish line with Rory.
Record at 2:22. It'll be tight, but possible.
Yeah, I mean, she was on 2:21 mid pace. I haven't seen any of this, like the cumulative times lately. If we get a 40K split here, we'll have a really good idea. But if this is, I think we can see the 40K timing match right there. Boom, boom. So if you add 7 minutes, 2:16. They've slowed down a little bit. But
40K, 3:28.
What?
Yeah, so they've slowed down a little bit. I don't think she's going to get the course record. But it's going to be a great result either way. I think, like I said before, if she did well here, it's going to send ripples through the world athletics fans and the distance running world. And I think this is going to springboard her to potentially like a bigger marathon coming up. Like, you know,
well, the most impressive part of this, it's her marathon debut.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Marathon debut, and I'm sure a lot of people have not heard her name in a long time. She actually moved back to Ethiopia. She's married to Yaman Sagai, who's a great marathoner in his own right. So
She looks so comfortable.
yeah, and for having puked.
Yeah, and you know she's got also long sleeves on. We haven't seen any of the lead women in a full long sleeve set too, so she must be pretty warm.
Yeah, she may be inexperienced with the marathon,
Absolutely.
where, you know, she was a bit chilly at the beginning of the race and thought, I don't want to be cold. The other runners knew that it's a marathon; they're going to heat up, and you know, 10 degrees actually isn't cold. So yeah, you know, she's learning a lot. I'm sure she's going to learn a little bit or a lot about her fueling, what she was taking in the race, how her stomach reacts to a certain amount or a certain type of product. As we talked about earlier, the gut training, this in itself will be a good gut training run for her as well.
She's absolutely going to be a winner to watch.
14 years ago, a silver medalist in the 1,500 meters at the London Olympics. Aregawi in her marathon debuts, as we talked about, sick about 30 minutes ago, was able to rebound, trailed by about 400 meters, and now look at the gap.
Pacer's dropped, officially.
Ran a half marathon in Lisbon in March of this year in 1:11:29. Jenna wants the pacer to go away.
Yeah.
Aregawi might just run by him.
Yeah, we need her front and center here for that finish, but I'm sure he'll let her go for the end. But it's all eyes on Aregawi here.
I don't know what they're doing at Station 32. Our Ottawa firefighters are watching. Harley Monahan and the crew. Tell them to get this pacer out of the way, Harley.
Yeah, this is Felix Ngeta. He's a veteran pacer, so he's doing a really good job encouraging and leading the way. Felix is also a pacer at the Toronto Waterfront Marathon. He comes in here. Yeah, him and his buddy Sawston do a great job at ensuring that the winner run is even pace. But
He's committed to seeing her through.
she doesn't need him anymore.
No. That's all right. So they just passed Victoria Bridge here. So that is sort of the iconic last little landmark in the Ottawa Marathon. And that is the signal that you are 1 kilometer less and you are hitting that final 800 meters coming up shortly. So she is no doubt hearing that finish line ahead. She cannot see it yet, but it is so close, just past that 41K point out of 42.2. So we're seeing those elites just wrapping up here. Really great to see the crowd support out there. No obstructions this year with any confetti or bubbles. So thank you to all the spectators for respecting the elite space at the finish line here.
It is a family affair in Ottawa for the Aregawis. 13 years ago, her husband won this race in the nation's capital. And now, 14 years removed from an Olympic podium, there is nobody in sight behind her. Aregawi's marathon debut, one for the books.
Absolutely. She looks still so calm, so relaxed as we wrap up these final 100 meters. Almost approaching that course record. I think it's within reach. I don't get it.
Yeah, Sagai actually won here in Ottawa back in, like her husband won back here in 2018, and also back in 2014 as well. He has run a ton of marathons. He has finished second at Boston, second at the World Champs. He won Fukuoka in 2016. I was in that race. He beat me by a couple minutes. Yeah, so he's got a lot of experience. So I guess he's imparted some wisdom to Aregawi, who has always been a massive talent, but really cool to see move up in distance now.
Here's that last turn here, and the course record with less than 1 minute away. And we were gunning for a course record for the elite women. Our elite director was asking all the elites, someone to please beat it. And it looks like we are on pace for it.
2:22:17 is the record set back in 2018. The question now is just history. Can Abeba Aregawi do it? The pacer urging her.
We're not at those barricades yet, but we are close. So we are going to be so close to potentially hitting it.
What is left in the tank?
I think we're too far out for a course record.
I think so. Yeah, I was going to say, we might be, I don't know if she's going to kick it up.
Yeah.
But she also, like you said, she already emptied her stomach, so she's not running on a lot of fuel, quite literally right now.
Yeah, even just from the 40K split, when she crossed those mats, it would have been a big ask to to run like a low six.
She'll miss it by
Not
less
much.
than a minute.
Yeah. So she, and like I said, she runs under 2:23 here. That's a big result. She's running solo. She would have had to run her last 1,500 meter in about 4 flat.
Absolutely.
Which I know she could do, but maybe not after 42 kilometers and 14 minutes later. This is a very, very good result for Aregawi.
And that's the directors pulling the pacer to the side, making sure that she has that photo finish.
Yeah.
And it is all daylight from here. Aregawi's maiden voyage, a golden one. The winner of the 2026 Tamarack Homes Ottawa International Marathon, it's Aregawi who does it.
Less than a minute over that course record too. Really, really incredibly impressive. And Reed, you mentioned her at the start, and you were surprised to see her in the field and did a little bit of digging. I think this is
የዩቲዩብ ተከታታዮች ሰብስክራይብ በማድረግ ቤተሰብ መሆን እንዳትዘነጉ። ላይክ እና ሼር በማድረግ ለሌሎች እንዲዳረስም አድርጉ።
So she still competes for Sweden, even though she lives back in Ethiopia now. But yeah, when I saw her name on the start list, I thought, that can't be.
Right.
But then with the Sweden affiliation beside her name, I was like, oh, I mean, it has to be.
It has to be.
Yeah, and then of course the pace was so fast it just dwindled that pack. They did slow down a lot, I would say, in the last 7K. Once the pack fell apart and the places, especially in the last few K, she almost knew she was going to win, right? So it wasn't like what we saw last time with Florence Carol. She knew she was going to win, but she still powered all the way through to the finish line. And sometimes in the marathon, especially your first one, I give her all the grace to just enjoy that in the last 2K as much as possible without putting yourself into more pain and potentially having to stop and puke again by upsetting your stomach. So she may have just been, doing as much as she needed to do to get that win. And here we see Kuftu coming in second, and I think she knows she had a big lead to third place, and she's not concerned about time anymore. She to finish second in this race and collect that prize money is all that she wants to do right now, get to that finish line and be done with this. But a good race for Kuftu to come here and finish second.
I think today is a great example of you never know. With conditions and stomach and fuel, you can have the best of intentions and practice and mentality and high sport, and who knows, you never know.
So the silver medal.
Well, over 2 minutes, 2 minutes in arrears of Abeba Aregawi.
So Alyssa Legault, the lead Canadian, Natasha Wodak right there, and the podium is now complete on the women's side. Exhaustion, euphoria, elation, and gratitude.
Well earned, well earned.
So that's Betty Chip